Greetings and salutations, fine people. I'm Patty Alvarez. Welcome to The Good Soul, a show where we'll have supercharged chats with everyday humans from all walks of life and unpack what in their story will inspire us all. We'll extract the untapped wisdom, distill it, and serve it up to you in all the right ways that will engage, enlighten, and most of all, inspire growth within your soul. I think people are awesome. So join me on this journey through the hearts and minds of ordinary people to uncover the good soul within you. This is The Good Soul. Welcome everybody to The Good Soul. I am Patty Alvarez. We are on episode 55, and the episode is titled A World Without Child Abuse. So I'm going to do the greatest service to the whole topic and turn it over to my guest. We have, of course, Amy Stevens of the Dove House and Beth McKeithen of the Dove House. Hi, ladies, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for being here. So let's get started right away and explain to our audience, what is exactly the Dove House?
Sure. So we are a children's advocacy center. We serve child victims of sexual abuse, and we serve Iredell and Alexander County. We serve ages 0 to 18, and when a child discloses sexual abuse, so if they tell a friend at school or a teacher, then a report gets made. So that information is given to DSS or law enforcement, and then they will make an appointment with us. No children live in our office, but they come for an appointment, and we have a team of people that interview these children in a way to reduce trauma but get the most amount of information possible. And law enforcement is there, Department of Social Services is there, the DA's office, the district attorney's office, and they watch the interview on a closed circuit television while the child is being interviewed by a professional that is trained to talk with kids. And then we do a medical exam on every child to just check them from head to toe, looking for evidence, but also many of our kids they don't get adequate medical care. And so we're able to kind of assess that and figure out what steps need to be taken. And then we provide therapy for the kids. So however long they may need that. And then we stay in touch with these families through the court process. So this can take years, and every situation, every child is different. And so all of this is at no cost to the family. We never want money to be a barrier, and so we rely completely off grants and monetary donations, and just really are a source of support for a really scary situation when a child goes through this. But the whole premise, there's 50 of these centers across the state. We're all independent, but kind of under the same umbrella. But the premise is that a child only tells their story one time. And they don't have to keep telling it over and over, because we know that adds trauma every time they tell their story.
Sure. Not only adds trauma, but from what I understand, also inconsistencies tend to pop up in the story, which would lead me to ask you, how many percentage of these perps, for lack of a better term, end up even getting convicted or, I guess, in trouble for what they're doing because of these loopholes in the story? Do you find that to be...
Not so much anymore.
Okay. That's great news.
Because we do limit it, and we try not to. So before there was a Dove House, we had a very low prosecution rate. And then
under 20%.
Under 20%.
Yeah, that was the point. That was my question. Yeah. So, and that's a beautiful thing.
And so we have stayed steady at 89% prosecution rate for the last several years. We have a wonderful district attorney here. We're very lucky, and she cares very much about these cases, and her team as well. And so we do everything we can to help them build a strong case. So there's a lot of different facets to this. We're looking at the well-being of the child. We're looking at safety with Department of Social Services, but then we're trying to help build a strong case for prosecution as well.
Sure. I've heard stories and have firsthand kind of a front row to somebody who's dealt with something similar. And the amount of money, they don't live in state, and I wish they did, because the amount of money it's costing this person is tremendous.
Sure.
What level of law enforcement typically are involved? Is it the FBI? Is it local? Is it state?
Just depends on the case and the situation. So we, like I said, we primarily serve Iredell and Alexander County. So we work with those jurisdictions within that district, and we work with the detectives and criminal investigation divisions within those departments. But if it crosses state lines, it becomes an FBI case, and then we do work with the SBI. But they will come and utilize our center. Sometimes we do the interview, sometimes they do, but we work with all forms of Homeland Security. We work with all forms of law enforcement.
Unbelievable. It's so great that everybody's tied in together.
Yeah.
You said that you're a part of sort of a network. Are they all called the Dove House nationwide?
Nope. So because each one is independent, they, we operate completely independently, but they wanted to give a standard of care throughout the nationally for all of these centers. It's an international model, but this organization is national. And so we are actually accredited through this national organization, which says that we meet this standard of care.
What's the name of the organization?
National Children's Alliance.
National Children's Alliance. So what came first, the Children's Alliance or the Dove House?
The Children's Alliance came first. It was actually years ago in Alabama. There was a judge that said, you know what, I am seeing that these kids are going through hell when they make a disclosure. And so we need to create a place that's a warm, comforting environment where the kids can come, they tell their story one time. So that he actually started this model. And then they just started popping up because that's what happened here. He's still a board member, but he had a child that had been abused, and they realized that the process was not working.
Yes.
And so it was just a group of people around a kitchen table, and they started Dove House.
Yeah. I'll say it again. I have somebody who's in the eye of the storm right now with this and doesn't have access to the resources you're offering. And God, I wish. Well,
we'd be happy to help. We'll connect.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely make that connection.
Yeah.
How did the Dove House specifically get started? Is there a story behind that?
Yes. So, do you want to speak to that? Because you were part of it in the beginning.
Amy, I didn't know that.
She's been around for a long time.
Move that microphone over. I want to hear my girl.
Okay. Well, yes, it started back in 2001, and there was a local pastor and his wife, and they lived next door to a single man who had a child, and they became friends. And so this gentleman would set up play dates for his daughter and their son, who was 4 at the time, to just have play dates. And they didn't realize what was happening on those play dates. And he was producing pornography and doing a lot of nefarious things. So once that was disclosed, they had to go into the process, just as Beth described, of now the child discloses and where do you go from here? And at that time, there was no Dove House Children's Advocacy Center. And so they had to go to so many organizations, and that child is so young anyways, and having to disclose that story over and over and over and going through that process. And they realized through that process that it was severely broken and that there must be a better way. So they're the ones that this pastor, John Dawson and his wife, Sally, and they took it upon themselves to take this to their community, their church community. And they gathered a small group. I bet it was 5 or 6 people around the kitchen table, as Beth said. And they just started investigating how there must be something better. And
Amy, I'm going to ask you to hold that thought.
Sure.
We're going to put a pin in that, guys. We'll see you in just a few for our segment 2. Don't go away. We'll be right back. This segment of The Good Soul is brought to you by Aaron Fisnick, certified luxury home specialist with Ivester Jackson, Christie's International Real Estate. Aaron serves all levels of the greater Lake Norman region real estate market, and whether buying or selling, she is very much the lady who will deliver like no other. Many of us at Good Soul are also really happy clients. Aaron can be reached at 704-728-5657 or reach out to me and I'll get you guys connected. Thank you, Aaron Fisnick, and thank you guys for tuning in and supporting The Good Soul. Welcome back, everybody, to The Good Soul. We're on episode 55, A World Without Child Abuse. We're lucky enough to have Beth and Amy here from the Dove House in Statesville. Let's pick up where we left off, Amy, in the formation of the Dove House.
Yeah, so just real quickly, a small group of people banded together, and many of those individuals are still involved today. They're considered legacy board members, and they're still involved in making sure that the Dove House's doors stay open every year. And so they went through the process of, how do you set up a 501c3? What does that look like? They did it. They wrote all the grants that they needed.
Well, that's what that is.
Went through
A
the
501c3 nonprofit, correct? And then finding the money to get a place established, and at some point, not many years after they opened, they became a recipient of the Governor's Excellence Award, and they started helping and assisting other CACs that wanted to open up throughout the state, just being a mentor to that process. So a really important group of people.
At this point, are they hooked up with the National Alliance or not yet?
At this point, no. That's a good question, and I'm not sure the answer to that. Okay. I know that they, from the ground up, figured out how to write the papers, how to get a 501c3 established.
Sure.
And then I'm sure it probably was through the national organization, because that's what they were researching is, what is a CAC?
Sure.
And then there's a process to become accredited, as Beth mentioned. But these people are still involved today. They're passionate about Dove House and making sure that our doors stay open every year. And in fact, 2 of our staff members have been with the organization for the 23 years that the doors have been open.
I know this is jumping the gun a little bit, but how many victims have passed through the doors of the Dove House roughly? Or how many per year?
We average about 3 to 5 per week.
3 to 5 per week, so around 150 or so. Okay.
We've had years where it's been definitely over like 200, 250.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder where the trends, I'm sure that's something like the trends, why some years were more than other. That'd be interesting. So tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got involved, Beth.
Sure. So I'm from this area, and went to college and then moved. I worked in Atlanta for a few years and just felt like I needed to do something bigger and joined the Peace Corps. So I was in Southern Africa for 3 years, and it was there when I started working with victims, and because it's rampant there.
So that was your
that was my
focus?
segue in. Yeah, I had a degree in business, so it was kind of, but I always had sort of a social work heart. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of my segue into this field. And
I just have to tell you, my sister was in the Peace Corps. And she was in Poland. Yes, she was in Poland.
I almost got Eastern Europe.
Wow, yeah, my sister Tammy. Shout out to my sister Tammy, who's an extreme humanitarian.
Oh, that's
she's
cool.
Extraordinary. So anyway, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No. And so then when I came back, I was like, I want to work with child victims of abuse. But I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And so I actually worked in Rowan County for 8 years. And then when COVID happened, I was home with my kids. And then, this position opened up at Dove House. So I've been there going on 3 years now.
Okay.
But it was good to be closer to home.
Yeah. So I have this perpetual lump in my throat, and I'm going to try to, but while you were talking, I looked at your sleeve and it says, you tell everybody what it says.
It says safety first, stop, run, tell.
Take us through the process.
So, and that we teach a program in the schools. We teach about that I actually created in Rowan County, and now we are in 3 school systems and private schools, public charter schools, and we teach about body safety and prevention. And so, having kids have learned for many years about stop, drop, and roll, and how often are they in a fire, but they're being sexually abused. 1 out of 6 boys and 1 out of 4 girls by the time they reach 18.
Can you
So-
define abuse for the audience?
Well, currently we primarily serve child victims of sexual abuse. So
Okay.
when, which is not visual, you can't always see it. So it's a little bit more difficult, and which is where the child's voice and the child's interview really comes into play. But when someone is inappropriate and crosses lines with the child and in a sexual manner, that's primarily what we're dealing with. And it's rampant right now. We see child on child cases, we see adult child cases. And so, the internet has made everything just exacerbated in our field.
Easier access.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
I'm going to guess the majority of cases are friends and family members and
Uh-huh.
neighbors.
Yep. 98% of perpetrators are very close to the family. Stranger danger doesn't really apply here.
Yeah. Also, I'm seeing, I just got goosebumps on my legs. I'm seeing a lot lately of like grandpa, she does not want to be hugged, now we know
Boundaries.
that it's not
Yeah,
against,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
boundaries.
against the law, but what would be kind of a red flag for a parent or an adult to know that something like this? And where are the boundaries? Hugging versus
Well, and everybody's boundaries are different. What I determine and what Amy determines may be 2 different things. But part of our program with the 5th graders that we teach is knowing what your bubble is and your boundaries are. And if you're not comfortable with it, it's okay to say something. Because a lot of kids grow up and they don't know that even what's happening to them is wrong. So when we teach this program, kids come up and say, oh gosh, this has been happening to me for years. I didn't know that this wasn't supposed to happen. This didn't happen to everybody.
Yeah.
And so then they're able to have a safe place to come and talk about it and just helping them realize. But I think for a lot of parents, we talk about a major change in behavior. If they're usually really outgoing and become withdrawn, sometimes that can be a sign. Bedwetting, night terrors, being fearful of a person. But it's okay. We tell people not to over question their children because we want to be able to be the ones that question them, but just always being a safe, open place for your kids to be able to tell you anything bad that happens to them. And the child may not even see it as bad, but that's part of our role is to educate them.
Well, it's interesting. In the Michael Jackson documentary, the young boy was talking about how he didn't think it was bad, and he actually fell in love with Michael Jackson. And
Right.
at one point,
Totally normal.
yeah, he got on the plane, and when he turned maybe 14, there was another 8-year-old in the seat where he once sat next to Michael Jackson,
And that's when he got mad.
Yeah,
Yep.
and that's when he got mad.
He was like, wait, it's not
Yeah.
me anymore.
yeah,
That is very common. And we hear a lot of speakers, especially boys, talk about that. To have jealousy that you're not the victim anymore is really fascinating to me.
sure.
But the brain is a crazy thing. And the way these perpetrators work very hard to get in with these kids and they want it to feel good. They want it to be fun. It's not always like a horrible rape in the field. A lot of times it's
Very subtle to it.
it's very subtle and they want it to feel good and they do all the things to make because they want the kids to want to keep doing it.
And they give treats, and there's always like, and the person I know, there was like a box of toys that they
Yep.
had got.
Yep.
And the reality is, as I've said before, and this may sound kind of odd, but like it like feels good. Like it makes your body feel good.
Yeah.
So that there's a sense of almost like pleasure and delight in it. Okay. So the, tying everything together. Well, actually, let's get back to the process. So you are suspect that something is going on with your child or a young person that you love. What do we do?
So we are adamant and we preach all the time that everyone is a mandated reporter, everyone in the state of North Carolina, and it is currently a misdemeanor if you fail to report. So all you have to do is suspect child abuse. You don't have to investigate it. You just have to suspect it. And if you do not make that report to protect that child, you could be in trouble.
Be
So
liable.
we really push with people that they need to make those reports because if you don't, you may be the only chance
an
that
accomplice.
child has at being safe. So if you make a report, then it will come to DSS or law enforcement, depending upon the logistics of the case, and then they will refer it to us.
Okay.
But we can't see the kiddo until there's a active investigation.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah.
So go to the police first.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Technically, you should always. The law says that you should make a report to Department of Social Services.
Social services. Well, I understand too. I mean, just from a therapist point of view, the person that I know had spoken to the therapist, and the therapist said, "Listen, you go home and pack a bag, and because DSS could show up either tomorrow or in 2 weeks. But whatever the case may be, you're in danger. Your child is in danger. But we have to go to the police immediately."
We do.
And
Yep.
and that, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say love, but I'm fascinated by the term multidisciplinary team. Can you speak to that?
Sure. So we work with every jurisdiction. So all the law enforcement jurisdictions, both of our county Department of Social Services, the district attorney's office, mental health, guardian ad litem, anybody, our nurses, anybody who has who touches these cases, we meet together once a month and we go through all the cases that have come through Dove House to really make sure nothing's falling through the cracks, that we're all working together as a team, and we know that the collaborative approach is stronger. Builds stronger cases, works better for the family, reduces trauma, all the things. Everybody on the same page. So we really want everybody in one room discussing these cases. And there's, a back and forth. I had a case like this. Oh, he was a perpetrator in my jurisdiction and now you've got him. And so it just really builds strength within our community.
Okay.
And let me interject here just one thing. I have a hard time listening to the cases. I
heard that about you, Amy.
I will try to make it rain money somewhere somehow, but listening to the cases and doing the clinical work is not my strong suit.
Amy, I think you speak for all of us when you say
it's very difficult.
Somebody,
but I wanted to go to one of the what they call the MDT meetings, the multidisciplinary team meeting, where they do the case reviews, just so that I could hear it for myself.
Amy, I'm going to ask you to hit pause. We're going to pick up right where you left off. Sorry,
Excellent.
We have to end segment 2. Guys, we'll see you in just a couple minutes on The Good Soul. Don't go away. Hey there, busy women in your 30s, 40s, and 50s. This is for you. If you've been struggling with fatigue, stubborn weight gain, restless nights, or gut issues that just won't quit, it's time to stop guessing and start healing. Kimberly is an integrative health practitioner and helps women uncover the root causes of their health challenges so they can feel energized, balanced, and truly alive again. Let's get to the bottom of what's holding you back. Book your free health strategy call today at KimberlyFlebby.com because you deserve to feel amazing every day. Welcome back to The Good Soul, everybody. We are on episode 55, A World Without Child Abuse, and we were talking with Beth and Amy from the Dove House, and we are going to pick up with the MDTs, the multidisciplinary team. Finish what you were saying, Amy.
Yeah, so I wanted to just speak to that it's, Beth was talking about the monthly meeting that occurs, and I had not gone to them because it's difficult for me to hear the stories. They're really, really traumatic. But I decided to go to an MDT meeting, and I was shocked that there were a total of 213 active cases in our system today.
The Dove House alone?
The Dove House alone. That's when Beth was talking about no case falls through the cracks, and that is being tracked on a monthly basis. I was shocked at that number. I couldn't believe.
Just in the county.
That's just in Iredell and Alexander counties,
but
the active cases. And so it just, I listened till I got to about 35 and I couldn't hear anymore.
Yeah.
I literally had to get up and make an excuse to leave the room because I just mentally couldn't take it anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's important to know that that's how much of a workload there is going on. And Beth spoke to this earlier. That's why it's so important for these children to come to the center and have that forensic interview where it is taped and that is documented with that child at the time of the crime,
The first reaction is usually the true one.
because it may take 3 or 4 or 5 years for that case to come to court. And it's very important for the jury and the judge to see that child at the time of the offense, so that they know that that was a 9-year-old child, not a 13-year-old child. Even that makes a difference. But
I just want to intervene for a moment, because we had a circumstance with a loved one who was, I guess, inappropriately touched by somebody that they worked for. And I guess the moral of my story is, and I'll kind of give you a teaser, is to not be afraid. Women are afraid to tell their husbands in fear that they're going to take out a gun and go kill the person. They don't want to embarrass the child, whatever it is. We had a circumstance where in our house, one of our somebody that we love was inappropriately touched, and we were so afraid to let Manny know. So we had, at the time we were blending our family, we had 2 therapists over. We hid his keys, we took his phone, in fear that he was going to jump in the car and go kill the guy. But here's the most important point I'd like to make is that my husband, and I'm sure you guys have seen him in other episodes, he looks like a gorilla. He sounds like Rocky Balboa. And he's a beast, and I've never seen him exhibit more bravery and calm. And he didn't jump up and go for his keys. The first thing he was concerned with was the well-being of our loved one. And so, ladies and gentlemen and siblings and family friends, do not be afraid of the consequences of what the bomb that might go off as a result of exposing the truth. Their stories must be told. If you skip back to Handsome Gary and the episode with him, with his priest, it's so important. Do you guys work with people now? Do they have to be active cases? Or if somebody came to you at 55 years old and said, I was molested when I was 12, I need help?
good question.
That is a good question. So we work with children, but many of the parents, we know it's a cycle, and part of what we're trying to do with this prevention program is break that cycle. But a lot of the parents that come into our office were also sexually abused as children, and we do get adults that call. So what we do is we work with other agencies and therapists, and all, we just connect resources. So we may not be able to do it in house, but we're going to connect you to somebody who can.
How do you handle when it is a parent and they're still they play an active role in the child's life still? How does that work? Like
If they're the perpetrator?
Yeah.
So, that so much is not our role, but we want to support the child and the non-offending caregivers.
So keep them away.
So they are not allowed on our premises, the potential alleged perpetrator. And so only the non-offending caregiver, and we want to make sure that child feels psychologically safe and physically safe while they're with us. And so that's a little bit more of Department of Social Services role to kind of make sure that family has what they need. But it does stink for the families where the perpetrator is the only breadwinner in the home. And where does that leave them? Kind of on the street sometimes. We also get parents who choose the spouse or the perpetrator over their own child. We've had parents walk out and leave their kid at our center.
Wow.
Because they choose boyfriend they met yesterday. And all of that is trauma. We have generations of trauma that has not been addressed. And so a lot of these issues are a result of those levels of trauma, layers of trauma.
How many kids, or is it common, I should ask, for the kids to kind of buckle and say, forget it?
I'd say more often they are willing to talk because they do feel safe.
Once you break that ice,
sometimes the consequences of their reveal costs a lot.
Sure.
Like you said.
You can feel that. I also interview the kids. I back up our interviewer. And so you can usually feel that. But, a lot of kids, you can see it after they tell. They're like so relieved that they finally got it off their chest. But so many kids, there's a lot of reasons they don't tell. And adults, when adults get sexually abused, they tell usually fairly quickly. They can get a rape kit done, all those things. It's usually years before. So the statistically, sorry, do you want to?
No, I'm sorry. That was what Gary was saying. Remember he said it came off his chest.
I know.
Statistically, only 30% of kids ever tell that anyone.
30%.
30%. And in those 30%, so think about how many kids we see. And then out of those 30%, they usually only disclose like 20% of what, when they've initially come in, 20% of what actually happened. Usually more comes out in therapy. So you've got only 30% of the kids they're only telling 20%, and we're getting 3 to 5 cases a week. So think about how much is going on that we don't even get.
Okay, so on that note, we have about 2.5 minutes left in this segment. What are the consequences of this going unattended? Like, in other words, a child is going to live their life without getting the help, the therapy they need. What are the consequences of that?
So trauma affects a child's brain, especially if it's 12 or under. And a lot of parents we hear people say, well, they were young, they won't remember, but the body does remember. And so it can cause lifelong complications, cancer, obesity, drug issues, early pregnancies. There are so many things that are all tied back to trauma, and especially sexual abuse issues.
Unbelievable. And I think the one thing that fascinates all of us, and we all is when it involves an infant.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I mean, we all sit here like, oh my God, like it's really, I can't even imagine what it must be like for you guys. And of course,
we have 2 amazing pediatric nurse practitioners that actually drive up 3 days a week from South Charlotte.
Yeah.
And they are specialists, and they only deal with child abuse. And so they are incredible, and they are reassuring these kids that their body's okay. We've had an increase in suicide issues with our kiddos. So we're looking for suicide ideation. We're just making sure that their bodies are healthy. And they are just encompassing all those things to like help these kids work through. And then we get them right into therapy.
Do you ever put them into any sort of foster care or temporary homes if you feel as though they're not safe?
Sure. So sometimes we don't do that. That's Department of Social Services, but we work with them, obviously, to give them the support they need to be able to get those kids into safe placements. My husband actually works for Social Services in Rowan County, so we both do this work. Yep. So, but at least we can talk to each other, and we understand each other. But it's their job. The safety of that child is their job, and so is it perfect? No, but they work hard to try to get these children. And sometimes the parent that they came to Dove House with, they can't leave with.
Wow. Okay.
Failure to protect. If a mother knows that it's happening and doesn't protect her child or her father, then that's equally it's a crime. Yep.
Okay, we're going to wrap segment 3 up on that note. And for the 4th segment, I'd like to get into the logistics and what makes this machine happen and how we all can help them. So don't go away, guys. We'll see you for the 4th segment here on The Good Soul.
Who isn't looking to get happy and healthy and empower themselves in an extraordinary fitness community? At Good Soul Hot Yoga, we offer life-changing yoga, strength training, cycling, and relaxing therapeutic classes that will make everything in your life feel better. For some power, balance, and peace of mind, we will deliver. Come experience our spa-like wonderland in the center of Mooresville. We will become your happy place.
Welcome back, everybody, to The Good Soul. We are going to wrap up this incredible episode that I don't want to end, to be honest with you. I'm learning so much with these wonderful ladies. Yes, episode 55, A World Without Child Abuse. And while, as we were just talking about on the break, this stuff is going to happen in life, whether it's abuse or trauma, or that the things that you guys are doing for the world and for one life, thousands of life, is really quite remarkable. Beautiful. So I tip my hat to you, truly. We talked about the effects of untreated trauma. Let's talk about some success stories. Share that with us.
Put some smiles out there.
What we see, which I think maybe is unique to Dove House, is many of our clients that have come through our kiddos that have grown up to just be huge success stories and are now giving back into this field and saying, I want to dedicate my life and my career to helping other kids the way Dove House helped me. And it just like gives you goosebumps because, you know, we're in it every day. We're doing it. We're trying to do the most that we can. But then when you have a moment to stop, and like, that's what's beautiful about our events, when we hear these testimonial speakers and they're now detectives with Statesville PD or, and they're working these cases, or they've become an attorney and they want to work for the defense office. And, Olivia that spoke at our event, who not only was she sexually abused, but her mother was murdered in the same scenario. She now is doing equine therapy, and she wants to work with victims of trauma that have been sexually abused. And so this like pay it forward, because they feel like Dove House helped them so much that they have been able to thrive, and now they can give back to others.
That's so nice.
It's fantastic. I want to get a little bit into how it ticks, but before we do that, probably the most important thing is the event that's coming up on April 12th. I like to give everybody a little bit of a summary of what we're talking about, and then I want to give you my experience.
Okay. So coming up in 2 weeks from tomorrow, we will have our major gala fundraiser.
So this is April 12th of 2025.
Correct. And this year, for the first time ever, we will be at Dale Earnhardt Incorporated's corporate office.
Intimidator.
The venues at Dale Earnhardt. And so we will be welcoming approximately 450 guests for a extravagant evening of dining and
Silent
shopping
auction.
and silent auction and live auction and martini bars
Espresso
and
Buddy.
and Vouv bubbles and all kinds of spin platform and
fun.
all kinds of fun things, because while this is a somber subject and a difficult thing to deal with, we have to have the funds available to provide these services to our families at no cost. And so it's important that we, as a community, come together and raise the monies necessary to keep the doors open for day-to-day operations. And this event is important.
What kind of a budget does the Dove House work off of annually?
We're pushing towards $1 million budget. We're like at 800,000.
And how much of those funds do you have to raise versus government, state, local, federal funding?
Well, half, as she said, half of our operating income comes from donations. Okay. Well, this particular event.
The big event.
But we have other events throughout the year. We get general donations and grants throughout the year. About 35% is government and local grants, and we are looking at preparing because the need is growing and there's other types of abuse, and we feel like we need to meet that need. So we're looking at possibly expanding our services, but in the same regard, we're looking at federal budget potential funding cost cuts at 90%. And so, that's what's hard for my staff is like, not only are they dealing with all these things with the day-to-day stuff, but to have to fight for funding as well is a whole added layer.
Of course. So in fall of 2024, you had gotten word that, so you had said, I think it was 90% off of the 23% of this that you rely on to keep functioning could potentially be cut.
Correct.
So, and while wanting to expand your needs. So guys, this is all the more reason to come forward, not only to participate and donate, but also to use your voices to kind of look into why these things are happening and what we can do to prevent this stuff from happening, especially to worthy causes like yours.
Absolutely.
I will tell you from personal experience, all kidding aside, we went to the event last year for the first time. And I was explaining to the girls, my daughter went to a pretty fancy private school in New Jersey, and we went to all sorts of events and hobnobbed with all sorts of cool people. And I had never in my life been to an event that was as well laid out. I mean, so well laid out. The flow of the food, the quality of the food, which I think, are you going to have the same format, like
we will.
Kind of local restaurants that come in?
We have 14 restaurants and 3 desserts
Okay.
this year.
Food.
That's great. The
Yeah.
food was phenomenal. They're all local. So it's also kind of, in a way, supporting our local businesses and getting to
Absolutely.
know them better.
Absolutely.
The flow of the event, what I learned from Olivia, from you, from kind of, we do live in a bubble, sort of. And then the auction is fun.
Yeah.
The chocolate martinis, the espresso martinis were fun.
His favorite.
And they were very strategic about it. They placed the espresso martinis at the back of the auction. I thought that was brilliant.
All the auction.
Yeah, and they had the DJ was fantastic. She had one of those turning. I mean, it was just fun. And I don't want to sound so shallow here. My point was, and I said this on the break, was that through trauma and through tragedy, how these women had the power to pull together people from all different socioeconomic backgrounds, religions, political beliefs, to unify us, to educate us, and to, in a way, kind of rejoice based on the success of the work that you're doing. I felt it that night, and I mean it. And I know that my husband did too.
Oh, yeah.
So really keep on doing what you're doing. What other forms of abuse are you talking when you say you want to expand your scope?
So a majority of the centers around our state serve all types of abuse. So anything that's traumatic, physical neglect, witness to violence, whatever it may be. I've interviewed kids when I was in my neighboring county that, saw their house burned down, and it was traumatic for them. So just kind of it builds a stronger case to have the kids be able to go through this process. And so it doesn't just apply to sexual abuse. So it's definitely something we're working towards, but like figuring out how to meet the needs of our team, our multidisciplinary team, and the community, and just be the very best Dove House that we can be, for these families.
We can take tours of the Dove House, from what I understand.
Yes. So if anyone's interested, they can call our office, 704-883-9814, and any of our wonderful staff can help get that set up. We have days that are administrative days. And so we do offer tours on those days, which is great. It makes so much more sense when you see it.
Sure. Yeah. Do you have anything online on your website that people can see if they can't actually get to the Dove House? Do you have like a video tour?
We do have a video tour. It's a few years old, but we do have a video tour, and it does kind of break down the flow and the process and the importance of that process.
Okay. And tell me real fast about how many paid employees you have, how many volunteers you have, and that sort of stuff.
Sure. We have 8 paid employees full-time. We have 2 part-time nurse practitioners, and then we contract with a few therapists just to meet the need for the kids, because there is kind of a mental health crisis going on. And then we have 80 to 100 volunteers at our spring event, and probably 50 to 60 volunteers at our fall event, and people that come throughout the year. We have some needs right now. We always could use snacks, individually packaged, bottled water, sodas, and we actually have some landscaping needs if there's any landscapers out there that want to help us.
Right.
Well, we built our house. This house was almost completely paid for by community in-kind donations in 2009. So we're just at that point where, we just had to replace our roof, and we have some other needs. And so some updates, yes. And so it's things like that so we can focus on the kids, and if people can help us take care of the rest of the stuff that with the facility, that really helps us tremendously.
Yes. Are there rooms like where the kids can kind of hang out, like if you're talking to their parents or anything like that? Like if somebody's a massage therapist, if somebody is a yoga teacher, you're open to any and all ideas?
We would definitely be open to the conversation. These cases are so private, and
Noted.
so specific. Sometimes that kind of stuff can come after.
Yeah.
But when they're there in the moment, it kind of just needs to be the team and the family to protect their privacy.
Okay. So I just want to wrap this up and again kind of translate this, because I know my ADD brain, especially when I listen to podcasts, I just really want people to understand how the purpose of the Dove House, how complex and traumatizing it can be, not only for the victim, but for the parents involved. And they are here for you. They're here for us. So can you kind of wrap this up with the mission and what you want people most to take away from this podcast?
Sure. I think, just for families to not only know if this happens to someone in your family, there is a safe place to go. If your child does disclose to you, or we always say if a child chooses you to tell their story to, take that as an honor that they trust you enough to tell, and always believe them and support them, and don't overreact, because the tone when they choose their person to tell that story to is going to set the tone for the rest of their experience. And so we really want people to be supportive and not over question. But, our role is to minimize trauma and support this collaborative investigation process and be there for this child and their family, and just be as completely supportive as we can be until they don't feel like they, and we'll always be there. But some families we stay in touch with for a very long time, and that's okay. Every kiddo is different. So we just want to be there as much as we can for these families.
Awesome.
Thank you. That was a great wrap up. So I'm going to say it one more time that it's August 12th, Saturday, April 12th. Is it full, or are there still?
There are a few seats still available.
There's a few seats available.
There are still a few seats. April 12th, Saturday, April 12th, Dale Earnhardt Incorporated. You can call the office, 704-883-9814. I'm extension 103.
I can also put it in the comments. I'll put it in the description. You
And
can also Google the Dove House.
You can.
And also remember, snacks, like she said, water, soda, any landscapers out there. And of course, you could just log on and donate is what I would imagine.
Sure.
So I'll put in the description all of these links. Ladies, I want to thank you for being here so very much. Really,
Thanks
you're both
for having
fantastic. Just keep shining and keep doing what you're doing. It's an honor to have you. Truly.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we'll see you. Like, share, follow, and just keep coming back. And we'll keep serving it up to you here on The Good Soul. We love you. Peace.